But usually what they'll try to do is try to persuade you that you need a lawyer, because without it, as one judge said to me, said to one of the guys on the show, that C's could be very choppy. And he went on and on with various different phrases to try to persuade the defendant to try and get a lawyer. So he did spend quite a long time on it. So, but they need you to be competent in their legalese in order for their case to carry on. So, they'll try all sorts of stuff to, because they need joinder. If they're speaking Chinese and you're speaking a different language, it's going to be very difficult for a case to kind of move on without, somebody interpreting or somebody, explaining what's going on. So hence why the interpreter for legalese would be a lawyer. So, it gets quite interesting. I don't think you'd normally get a lot of problem in your hearing straight after where you've kind of put a notice in to say, by the way, I'm going to get rid of my lawyer. But like you say, I don't know whether there's a reason why they're having this meeting, and sometimes it's probably a good idea just to go to the courthouse and say, what is this? Where in the stage are we? Is this like a discovery? Is it, what exactly is the reason for this meeting?
The reason for the hearing is the lawyer put a motion in to withdraw from the case after I put a notice in that I would no longer need his services. Now, I put other notices in, but they wouldn't enter those notices because of my having this public attorney. So I decided to go ahead and get rid of the attorney so that I could put in other notices.
Yeah, so I don't think there's going to be massive controversy there. It's going to be quite straightforward. So, yeah, you're going in there. They'll probably try and persuade you to keep one. And you'll be saying, no, thank you, no, thank you, no, thank you. And by the way, here's a handful of notices that I need to hand in and file. And just give them to them straight there if you haven't already done it at the beginning. If you haven't already filed it.
Well, would it be an opportunity for me to ask if there's a verified claim?
Yeah, you can do a verified claim. Where's my accuser? You can go any one of them and say, brilliant, okay. But, okay, so we're going to have a delay. Okay, that's fine. But you're going to make sure that the next hearing that I go, there'll be my accuser there.
Well, more than likely, at this hearing, the accuser will not be there. It'll probably just be that lawyer, the former attorney, and the judge and myself.
Yeah, I mean, who do you believe would be your accuser?
Well, I'm of the opinion that it would be the federal prosecutor who's brought the charges.
I'm going to get some kind of greens they've got him also.
How's that?
I think that was Karl, but I think he wasn't making a comment. I think he was talking somebody else. But don't really care.
Well, the federal
prosecutor... Sorry about that. I was talking to my buddy Jimmy here. I'll mute myself out.
Okay. Yeah, so go for it, yeah.
Well, I'm under the impression that the federal prosecutor is the one who is my accuser, coming under the name of the United States of America.
Okay. So really the accuser has to be a man?
Well, it would have to be.
The fact that you're saying it's...
Well, would not put a notice in that I, as a man, would only be able to respond to a claim from another man or one claim against him?
Brilliant, yeah. So you need to, if you look at some of the notices that are on the Broadline site, you'll see lots of different kind of notices that kind of cover different angles around that. So they're just like a set of rules which are going to make it a bit more apparent in the method that you're going to answer in, the way you'll respond to people, and just various different notices that kind of narrow the scope for conversation. So the other thing is, the good side is that if ever there is an appeal, you've already put your notices in. So it's always a good idea that you do always file these kind of notices in, because then you're also giving yourself a bit more space, or more likely for an appeal if just in the in case that you actually need one. But yeah, if you go to mind for that, there's a whole load of these notices on there.
Well, at this point, they won't allow me to put any of the notices into the case.
Yeah, but don't worry, what it is prepare yourself, because what you're going to do is you've got to do this at some point, right? So you just
what I thought I would do
check it out, again, bring it in.
I thought I would just put them in as one after the other at that hearing. You start.
No. What it is you use the opportunity. You're there. Take 2-3 different copies. You go in there, and they'll talk about you getting rid of your lawyer, and then they'll say, okay, fine. They'll try and persuade you, and you say, no, it's okay. I'm fine. I won't need a lawyer. And then before it finishes, you say, by the way, I need this served. Give one to the clerk, give that to the judge, give that to the defendant. Brilliant, that's it, job done. And you leave. Maybe you want to leave one at the office downstairs as well, and you can stamp your copy plus their copy, so you know that you've got proof that it's been filed. Then you've covered every single angle now.
So would I for the copies of my notices to the bailiff and having them to the judge, and then after the hearing is over, just go ahead and file everything into the case?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. All the notices?
Yep, notices.
Okay.
While the lawyer's there, they're acting as your daddy and saying, no, he doesn't really need to file those notices. Yeah, so that's why they're you must have run these shows up before, but basically when you have a lawyer, they have a duty towards the legal society, not you. Even though you pay the bill, that's neither here nor there. Long term.
I understand that. I heard Karl talk about that. Yeah. Well, my question is will they try to railroad me back into their at-law fiction process rather than...
they'll always do that anyway, because the legal society will always want to try and get joined out or jurisdiction over you. So along the way, you'll get lots of things where they'll start saying, Mr. Smith, such and such, and you'll say, no, my name's just John Jones. It's, I don't go by Mr. And just various different jurisdictional things, stand up, sit down, various different things like that. So, you've got to be careful of jurisdiction. The other interesting one, which sometimes catches people out, is they might say, so Mr. Jones, is it true that the defendant, the prosecution has done such and such? And what it is you'll feel the need to answer the question, but actually the beginning part was Mr. Jones. So you would have answered the question, but you would have given away, the fact that you're suddenly now Mr. Jones and not a man.
So I wouldn't answer as Mr. Jones. I would think that you probably wouldn't answer them verbally, would you?
No, that's why you always want to put it in writing beforehand. But just in case because people say this all the time, but for some reason people always have the need to talk, and they shouldn't really be, because it should be clear in the notice. So really, once they've persuaded you, or they've tried persuading you to get your lawyer, and they've realised, no, that ain't going to work, you say, here you go, here's a notice. Clerk, can you pass that to the judge? Can you pass it to the other side? Brilliant, thank you very much. Right, have you got my notice now? Do you need time to read it? Yeah, you shouldn't really be doing a lot more than that. This is the problem where people start to do all sorts of stuff where they start talking about the notices, and all you're going to do is that's just going to throw your notices away, because you're suddenly now contradicting your notice because you're not using the exact wording. So sometimes it's best just to put it bang on exactly right in a notice and just refer to the notice. Have you got that notice? Have you got this notice? There's a question in there. There isn't a question. So do you understand it? Questions, kind of statements and questions along that way. Let your paperwork do the talking.
Well, as I said earlier, they wouldn't allow any of the notices that I put in to be entered into the case. So I'm assuming that I'm going to...
You've got a lawyer, that's all. Yeah?
I was not able to understand the last sentence.
So but it's only because you've got a lawyer who's acting like your daddy and they're making the decision, saying, no, son, it's 9 o'clock. You will go to bed. Yeah? But what you just need to say is something very basic, something like, I require you to take notice of these notices, or something along that line.
Okay.
You've got to use the word require. So, yeah, you've done the notices, but at the same time you say, right, I require the clerk to give you this notice, or something like
that. Okay.
It should be fairly simple. I've only come across one scenario where it didn't go quite swimmingly to that, but that was due to other factors. So most of the time that should be more than fine, 99% of the time. Because at that point, there's no controversy. They've got no reason to fear of your notices. They know they don't really want your notices, but then they think, okay, well, he did say the magic word require. We do have to obey that. We've got a duty and obligation to listen to man. And suddenly he's saying he's a man and he's requiring stuff of us. So those notices will have to get entered. But like I said, I always try and cover every angle, and I still go downstairs and still hand in a copy there and get mine stamped to show that I've handed it in.
I got a notice from the clerk of the court, and they said that they had sent all of my notices over to the lawyer. And so I sent the lawyer a letter requiring him to return all those to me as soon as possible. So perhaps he will have them with him whenever we go to court. If he doesn't, I'll take my copies and I'll refile them into the case.
Why do you want your copies back? Why don't you want the other side to get it?
Because I wanted those original copies put into the case.
All right. All you do is just take 2-3 copies and just hand it around willy-nilly to everybody.
Okay.
Yeah. Just what I tend to do is before I go to these court cases, where I've got a whole bunch of paperwork that's really important, I just take 3-4 copies with me. And say, brilliant, okay. You want one? Brilliant. You have one, judge? Brilliant. You have one, the prosecution? Brilliant. One downstairs for the office, plus a stamped copy, so I know that I've got proof that it's definitely been handed in. That everybody's got one all over the place, and there's no doubt that, everybody's got it. So if one guy there tells me, no, I haven't got it, I'll say, brilliant. Okay, look at the guy next to you, he's got it. Look at his copy. Or go downstairs, there's a copy there as well. You can always direct them. You don't have to suddenly run around thinking, oh my God, I've only got the original in front of me, or I've got no more copies left.
Okay. Well, we're having a hearing on Monday afternoon at 2:30, so this time next week I'll be able to report as how it turned out.
Oh, very good. Yeah, good. Okay. Yeah, just give us a bell. But from what you're saying, it just literally sounds like to me that they're just trying to persuade you to keep some form of lawyer who's, a member of the bar. So I can't really imagine it being massively more complicated than that, other than them trying to threaten or persuade you and say, no, you really need one of these lawyers. You definitely need one of these lawyers. Come on, you really, really need one, or something along those lines. But, if you're fairly prepared for that kind of conversation, it shouldn't be too difficult for you.
What would I just ask them? Are they forcing me to have a lawyer?
Yeah, you can't force any man to have a lawyer. Yeah? So they're speaking Chinese, and I'm suddenly saying to you, no, you have to have a Chinese interpreter. No, thanks. What law is there that I have to have a legalese or lawyer or whatever you want to call it? There is no law.
Yeah.
There isn't one, but I won't have one, thanks. Thanks, but no thanks.
Well, no, I would write that in a notice and just pass it to the judge. What law requires me to have a attorney to interpret their Chinese? Would not
they'll probably have 1 or 2 attempts to try and persuade you, but they'll give up really quickly. I think I've seen this quite a few times, and I've never seen one where they've really made you do it and said, you know what, I'm going to break your legs. You will take a lawyer. I've never seen that before.
What about doing a rescission of the contract to get rid of the issue of having a probation officer?
Hang on, a probation officer? Have you got a probation officer?
Yeah, I have a probation officer because they came and arrested me and called me a criminal and
what happens when you rescind the contract? What happens?
Well, my understanding, whenever you rescind the contract, you go back to where it was whenever you
where were you? And where were you at before you had a probation officer?
At home and in bed. I was at home in bed, and then I was hauled off to jail.
Right, so that's what you're going to be. The last thing you remember, you were in jail. So you're going to rescind your probation officer, and they'll say that's fine, and they'll put you right back in jail, and you can start from there.
Oh, okay. So I probably wouldn't want to rescind. Yeah,
you probably wouldn't want to do that unless you like going to jail. Maybe you got no place to live, so yeah, maybe it's a good deal.
Yeah, well,
like
I have a place to live.
Like that guy in Canada, he told me he was going to jail, and I got there on a Saturday, and he had to turn himself in on Tuesday. I said, well, that's fine. You got to go to jail? That's fine. We'll just set the terms and conditions of how you're going to be treated when you get to jail. So he said that he couldn't believe that there was such nice prison cells in jail. He's like in a 5-star hotel, and he gets 4 meals a day, and he gets to order anything he wants. So he's like, I ain't going home. So, like I said, when you go to jail, man, it's a benefit. But if you don't say the terms and conditions in which you go to jail, well, then you'll just take the general accommodations. Oh, well, that's your problem.
So I wouldn't want to. So I wouldn't want to rescind the contract for which.
No. When you have a probation officer, hell no. Because that's what you wish in terms of, instead of going to jail, you said, I'll agree to terms and conditions called probation or parole. So if you rescind that, you say, okay, let's go back to the time it was before I had a probation officer. The other choice was go to jail or accept probation. So you accept the probation. But if you wanted, you could accept going right back to jail, you could say. And that's what happened to the guy in Indiana. He was screaming up and down, and he immediately wanted these ankle bracelets off of him. I said, what happened to you before? Where were you sitting on July 3rd before they put that bracelet on you? He said, I was sitting in a prison. So I said, go ahead and keep screaming at them that you want these ankle bracelets removed, and guess where you're going to wind up? Where you were on July the 3rd. And that's exactly what happened. He wouldn't believe me. He's like, no. I said, I want this damn thing. I said, look, the only person's name on that contract I see is yours for the terms and conditions of probation. I don't see the judge's name. I don't see the prosecutor's name. I don't see a U.S. Marshal's name. All I see is your name on that contract that says to terms and conditions for release is an ankle bracelet. I said, and you want the damn ankle bracelet off? Yeah. Okay. Where were you sitting before? In jail. Guess where you're going to go to jail. So he still followed through with it, and he went straight back to jail. I said, oh, well, you got your wish. I said, you guys better start thinking this thing all the way through. It doesn't rescind it all the way back to the time before you got arrested. It's an incident just before you signed the contract. Where were you standing? Where were you sitting? And what were you doing the minute before you signed that contract? It puts you right back to that spot. You can modify the terms and condition of the contract if you want to, but to rescind it sounds insane.
So if I wanted to modify it, other than...
Yeah. You go back to the court in the original jurisdiction where you placed your order to have this probation put upon you. And you just say, at this time, I do not see a benefit at whatever X, Y, and Z. And you can just say, I want it modified a little bit. Because doing what you want me to do is cause me harm or injury or loss to my property. And I know you folks don't want to be any source of harm, injury, or loss to a man, because that's why you exist. You exist to benefit man and help man out. And I certainly know you're a wonderful probation officer. When I want to do anything that causes man harm, you're here to help us, not to hurt us. Mm-hmm. You got to write a nice effing letter, and that's what everybody seems to have a hard time doing. It's just acting nice. Nobody. See, that's what I'm saying. That means somebody said I should log in as Mr. Sensitive or Mr. Nice Guy, because I'm the only one who seems to be able to communicate with the other side in a nice manner. And I don't look like a very sensitive guy, and I don't look like a very nice man. If anybody says this guy looks like some Harley crazy guy, or like what that guy said, I look like Bill on Gangs of New York. I look like a butcher guy from Gangs of New York. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I look like. Well, my dad was a butcher, my grandfather was a butcher. I'm sure his great grandfather was a butcher. So I got that kind of sensitivity. Like, yeah, right. I got to butcher something. Okay. But you guys have no. It's amazing to me that you guys just can't be nice. You guys are always like threatening, or demanding or trying to order. It's just sort of saying, hey, you know what? Thank God you got probation. Thank God I'm not sitting in jail. You know, I thank you guys for working with me on this one. And but you know what? At this time, it's really causing a lot of stress or injury or harm or loss to me. And I know you guys want to benefit me and you want to help me and see me succeed. And I know you guys just live to, you know, to see that your system works and stuff like that. Just some real happy, joy, hugaboo, you know, nonsense. But that's what they want to hear. It's like I said, when I got federal funding in Las Vegas to do like fiber optics training, and I said to the lady, the black lady from Mississippi, I said, why are you giving me this money? Why? I said, there's like hundreds of black folks out there in the lobby that you're denying. Why are you giving it to me? She's like, well, what are you going to do with the money? She says, well, I'm going to go take the classes. I'm going to get training. I'm going to go get a job. And she said, right, you're going to be our poster boy. You're going to be our success story. So actually, they need successes. You know, we need to show that we got funding and we're giving it to people, and you guys are actually going out there getting jobs. And she said, just make sure every time you get another job, take a picture that you at the job site and send it back to us, and we'll keep getting funding. The same thing with probation. I'm sure that they want to succeed at some point, at some level, so they're going to say, okay, it's working. So when they say it's working, this probation is a success, like 99% of you guys ain't going back to jail, like, you know, you're going to be like a poster boy. And so, you know, sometimes these, you know, like the probation, like I said, probation or welfare people, like I said, or job training, they need a poster boy. And say, look at how successful this guy was. He went through our program, and he worked with us, and he was a success. He didn't go back to jail, and look, and now take a picture that you're really successful and your life's back on track. So you see what I'm saying? Sometimes they need a poster boy.
So you must want to pump up.
You got to write really nice letters. Try to play it like you're a poster boy. That you're trying to fucking do everything better in life, you know. And before you start to realize, you know, what was the original charge?
The original charge?
Yeah.
Oh, this is the IRS issue where I'm being charged with filing fictitious returns and payment with.
Yeah. Well, like I said, first deal with the probation thing. And then start, you know, like I said, how many of my shows have you listened to?
I've listened to several. I've gone back to 2012 and 2013 and coming forward and listened to several of them.
All right. Like I said, the first thing you do is, like I said, try to be super nice to the probation people. And then slowly come and start to learn what I do. And then slowly start to say, then start worrying about doing a rescission. Then start worrying about, you know, doing a revocation of what you created way back when. You know, the first thing, it sounds like you said you're on probation, right?
Yes.
You got an ankle bracelet on you or something?
No, just we just pledged the property as a $50,000 bond.
Yeah.
So.
And how long is that?
Will they take the property?
How much of a down payment did you have to put down for that bond?
I didn't have to put anything.
Oh, wow. You got lucky. And so did you own the land or property or house? I mean, how did you get a bond with no money down?
I own the property and there's no lien against it.
Okay, that's so. Like I said, I just try to clarify for other people. I know how the process, but other people listening to the show probably didn't understand when I said, oh, wow. And like I said, you guys could get all bonded out on your own cognizance if you own land or property. So that's why I tell people, buy the smallest little tiny piece of property or land. It was funny, somebody was doing that back in, I think it was like the 1990 election, sometime around there. They were selling like 1 square inch of land at some place so people could just vote in the election. They were selling like 1 square inch of land for like $1 so they could register as a voter. You know, and like in Montana or some little, you know, in a state where nobody really lived, just so the guy could win the election. And it's funny as hell. Like people all over the country, all over the world were buying this 1 square inch of this guy, and they were all doing like electing, remote elections. You know what I'm saying? Like you could place a ballot in from like if you're in the Army or the Navy. You know, you could send it in. So it's pretty funny. There's always a scam, you know. Like,
Wouldn't that be absentee balloting?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, remote absentee, right, exactly. So that's pretty funny. But like I said, that's why I tell people, if you want to be let on your own recognizance, if somebody says, because you know the deal, most people who listen to the show don't, if you ever need bail or bond money to get out of jail, the first thing they ask you is, do you own any property? And most people say no. If you ain't got no property, well, then you're going to go get a bail bondsman, and then he's going to want, say it's $50,000, he's going to want, 10%, he's going to want $5,000 before he'll give it to you. But like I said, if you say you got property, they say, oh, you got property? Where? And then you say, right here, man. That's the title number, whatever. You could check it out. I got property. So as long as you got property, they figure you're not a flight risk.
Yeah.
So like, but even if you only invest $5 on a little tiny inch of property, they don't know that you only got 5 inches or an inch for $5. But it'll sure help you get out of jail.